funny things happen sometimes, you know. With video, I just wanted to do this, you know, effect where you put the camera, my cell phone in this case, in the car, and then I go out and I walk in and you see me coming, like entering the car, and then this guy parks next to me, and when I got out he starts asking me questions about my car. And I got a great car, I love this car, but it, you know, it draws attention. It's a Challenger 6.4 liter, basically 392 RT Scat Pack, right? And he starts chatting with me. But anyway, what we're doing today, this is a video about photography. And before I head out to Toronto, I just want to say that I'm really thankful to this gentleman from, I think he spends half of his time in Germany, half of the time in Japan, because he was born in Japan, and his name's Samuel. And he just did a video where he talks about 10 sneaky techniques for street photography, and it was so fun to watch, and it was so useful, and it kind of like revived my interest in street photography. And I just want to mention briefly his 10 tips that I wrote down here. And the plan is, I'm in Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, and I want to drive 1 hour east to Toronto because this is the Labor Day weekend. And the cool thing I found about Toronto like a few years back is that, of course, parking is super expensive in downtown during the week, but on the weekends you can park in you know, real underground municipal parking for $9 Canadian a day, you know. And it's getting already cold. It's the end of August, right? So I was waiting till the temperature goes up a little bit, because in the morning was only plus 14. Now they promise plus 22. I just want to go. I have 2 cameras. I'm going to show you in a second. But here's the tips that I learned from that video. And I used them before, some of them. But some of them were pretty useful, and I can't wait to test them out today. So that's what we're going to be testing. Tip number 1, pretend to shoot something else, right? When you're pointing the camera at something and then you actually shoot the person. Number 2, pretend to shoot video. I love this one. I want to try this one. Kind of like, you know, you walk around with the camera steady and then you clicking, you know, just. And for some reason people find that when they are in the video, they find it less offensive when you take a picture of them, because I guess they're thinking that you're doing a video of a street or architecture or something. But I love this one. So you pretend to shoot video, of course holding the camera, you know, in front of you and looking at the screen. Number 3, blend in with the environment. Not too sure about this one, but basically this can be like when he shows how the guy was hiding behind bushes. I think this can get you into trouble. Not sure about this one. But number 4, show a picture to your friend. So this was pretty cool. Like he's sitting with a friend, and he shows him the back of his camera as if he shows him the picture, and at the same time he points the camera at somebody not too far away and snaps a shot. But you need a friend. I'm solo, so this is not gonna work for me. Number 5, stay in one spot till people start ignoring you. Love this one. Basically, you hold the camera to your eye in one spot and you stay there, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. And people think you're a total loser and idiot, and you just, nobody knows what you're doing there, and they basically they stop noticing you, and then you start taking pictures, you know. And he was showing one guy like kneeling on the corner and he's standing in the same pose. I think that's something to try, you know. I'm willing to try. Number 6, turn back to shoot people walking behind you. Not sure about this one. Basically, you walk, let's say, on the crosswalk or across the street, and there's a bunch of people behind you, and then all of a sudden you turn and you shoot a picture. And of course you don't raise the camera to your eye, you just, you know, hold it at the chest and you turn, and maybe it'll work actually. Yes, like as long as you don't look through the viewfinder, you know, and you just look somewhere else, and you have, you know, what they call zone focusing, or in my case I can just use auto focusing, or have a, on my Canon I have a zone, kind of like 9 dots, you know, and I just know that if I in the center, so if I point the camera at somebody you know. But actually what I'm gonna do is, my camera has a flip screen. For me, that's much more comfortable. You know, when you turn, you just pretend you look at the flip screen, and the flip screen is flipped like this towards you, as if you're looking at something, you're checking your picture. Then you just turn, and of course you have to turn off all the sounds, so make sure that it's all you know, silent. So I might try this. So turn back to shoot people walking behind you. Number 7, pretend to talk on the phone and shoot via live view. Basically, he was standing and talking on the phone, and he's like holding the camera like this, and he's looking at the back of the screen, like this, right? And he's looking at the back of the screen as if he's talking to somebody about the picture on the back of his phone, while he's turning and shooting. And of course the camera is not to his eye, the camera is like this, and he pretends to look at the screen while talking on the phone. For some reason, I want to try that. That's kind of like, people get confused. Well, what is he doing? Is he talking on the phone, or is he taking our picture? We have no clue. We'll leave him alone. So I want to try that. And number 8, use Wi-Fi on the phone to shoot remotely. Like, you can hook up your phone, right, to your camera, and then kind of like point it like this. But I don't know, I got a flip screen, so I might as well use the flip screen. And I have this cool feature, touch to snap, basically touch to take a photo, and I activate it on both my cameras, so I'm gonna use that a lot. And number 9, shoot from the hip. Basically, yeah, you hold the camera low when you're walking, and of course you have to use a pretty fast shutter speed, and all my lenses are stabilized. No, actually I have a 50mm on a full frame, so I'll have to use a faster shutter speed so that there's no, you know, vibration or, you know, blurry images. And number 10, fiddle with the camera, play dumb, like as if it doesn't work. Like, you know, he was looking at the camera, turning it in his hands, meanwhile taking pictures, you know, like, you know, that might be fun, but I'm not such a good actor. But I can try that. And so I'll be carrying this bag, and I have 2 cameras in here, but most importantly I have this. We're gonna be using this GoPro. I have a couple of these. Sometimes when I do my trucking videos, I put it on my head. I have a head mount, but actually I did a few street photography videos where I had that camera on my head. You know, I found that people pay less attention when you have a baseball hat and you turn it backwards with the cap backwards, and then you put the camera in here. But still, people notice, you know, and especially when I had a camera on top of this GoPro on top of the camera, people were noticing. I remember one guy, as soon as I put it on top, you know, you can use a couple of, like a little connector, right? Some guy started screaming at me, no pictures, no pictures, you know. Whereas before, when I didn't have the camera, nobody was saying anything. So of course it helps to have a small camera. But so this one, you see this thing, I love this. I used it before, and it's gonna be real sneaky. I'm gonna put it on my belt, and I'm gonna use a super view, which gives you very high space that it shoots, like both vertically and horizontally. And basically when it's on my belt, it's gonna be on my belt, it'll be shooting everything. So I want to add a few clips when I'm walking, you know, on the street, and then we'll add pictures from the street photography, and this should make an interesting video, I hope. And here's my cameras. Of course the trick is to be as invisible as possible, so you need to use a small camera. So with a smaller lens, and this is my smallest camera. This is a Rebel SL3, also known as 200D Mark II Plus, I think, in Europe. But over here it's Rebel SL3. It's like the latest Rebel. Before it was SL2, SL1, this is SL3. So the best feature is that it has this, right? So I can shoot like this, you know, or, you know, So this is a really great for photography, and I'm gonna use that touch to shoot in live view. And I'll try using yeah, I'll be using, so I disabled all the sounds, and I'll be using servo autofocus, like constant autofocus. But this one has only 9 points for autofocusing. There's no time to change them, so I'll be using, you know, auto point selection. So it'll be just because there's only 9 points, you know, like it'll focus on anything what's closer to me. And I'm gonna be shooting in shutter priority, like put maybe like 1/500th of a second to avoid shake. And it has actually this is a 24mm lens, and it has a stabilization, so I'm gonna put this on. And why I chose this lens is because it's 24mm. It's 35 actual on this camera, and that's like super nice for street photography, right? Oh, and metering. I'm gonna play with metering and see if I'm gonna use evaluative metering, like pattern, or I'm gonna use spot metering, right? And I'll be shooting in color. I don't want to shoot in black and white because it's not that, you know, like you have to adjust it. I didn't adjust it yet. I wanna get a nice picture out of the camera. This is my next one. Of course, it's a bigger camera, but the lens is smaller. So it's a 6D Mark II, has the same setup, right? So I think it should be very good for street photography. But this is 50mm, so this is a real 50, right? Because it's a full frame camera. And I love the grip on this one, so this might attract a bit more attention, but then the lens is smaller, so I don't know which people will notice more. Probably this one, but you know, it's all about being sneaky, right? And not looking at people, you know. So I'll be using the screen a lot, just, you know, focusing. And the same thing, touch to shoot, constant autofocus, servo, but this one has 45 focusing points. But I think I'll use autofocusing again here. So that's what we're doing. So video and 2 cameras for photography. And armed with this list of 10 tips, I feel pretty confident I'll be able to find good subjects and take interesting photos, probably showing, you know, something happening, something interesting, something funny, some kind of an emotion, you know, or people devouring food. So we'll see. Stay tuned. Okay, my trip always stops here. So that's the parking. This is Queen Street. That's parking, and that's about 29. You see this DRATCHEV Deli on the opposite side, so you can find that on Google Maps. So the entrance to parking is right next to DRATCHEV's famous deli, and across the street where I am now, it's a hospital. So there's the washroom here, free public washroom, and there's a coffee shop. So I always, after I park, I go here, use the washroom, and get coffee. And then you can get to Young Street, Bay, or you can get to Church Street. There's a great Henry's photography store at Church Street. Let's go. Okay, I'm back in Cambridge. It was a very long ride, both ways. I don't know. Like, I guess there's lots of things going on now in Toronto. There's the exhibition center, like so many people. But anyway, I just wanted to not to make this video too long, but basically what happened is that I took breaks, right? I started with a 50mm, just kind of like to ease in, you know, because it's always easier to shoot with a longer focal length because you don't have to come close to people. But I quickly realized that I wasn't, that, you know, that 6D Mark II just feels too big, even though the lens is tiny, but the camera itself, it's just like a brick, you know? And so after probably, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, I put it away and I grabbed my new Rebel SL3, and I loved that camera. It was so, you know, awesome, so tiny. And I was shooting probably for a couple of hours, then I took a break and I went to what is called Movenpick, basically marché, like a market. Spent $55 in there. That thing is so expensive, but that's Canadian, so it's about 40 US. Had some pancakes with salmon, had some veggies, and then I decided to catch a movie because it was too early to return. And so on the way to the movie theater, I was walking on Queen Street in Richmond. I did more shooting, and then I went to the movies, spent a couple of hours over there, and then on the way back to my car from Richmond, and basically it's west of Yonge, so it was probably like a mile, you know, 1.6 kilometers from the movie theater back to the parking lot near the hospital. And I think my best shots actually were at the end when I was returning to my car. And I just wanted to mention, out of those, all these 10 tips that I picked up from the guy on YouTube, I found I didn't try the cell phone trick. I tried the video where you pretend you do the video, and actually that one, you know, is working. I think it's cool, you know. And then but the most useful trick for me was to use the flip screen, you know, to use the flip screen and pretend I just took a picture, you know. I let's say I point the camera upwards at the top of the building, as if I'm taking a picture, and then I'm holding the camera near my waist, and I flip the screen as if I'm looking at what I just took, but in fact I'm using live view and I'm focusing and taking pictures, you know. So that one worked, but this way you cannot take too many pictures, right? So I found another way was, again, with the live view mode. I just sat on a bench near a pedestrian crossing with lots of people going, you know, to and again, I just flipped the camera and I had my glasses on, my hat, you know, I'm like part of the scenery, nobody's looking at me. And again, I flipped the screen and I was pretending I was looking at something or you know, playing with the camera, and nobody said anything, you know, not a single time. But my best results, I think my best results were like the simplest. The guy said, hold the camera, shoot from the hip, right? One of the advice was. But shooting from the hip, because I didn't have the strap, you know, it's not that easy, because at first I was afraid, you know, that people would see that you have to point the camera somewhere, right? But definitely not bring it to that's number one, is never raise the camera to your eye. As soon as the people see that, you know, they start panicking, they run into the bushes. No, but anyway, so yeah, for me what worked is either use the live view and touch screen and shoot from the waist looking at the screen, or this last one that I'm trying to describe, like shooting from the hip. But there's a trick I found. Instead of walking, let's say I'm walking on the sidewalk, right, and there's people coming towards me. Like there was a girl standing buying something, and she just bought something from the vendor, like a hot dog cart, and they were smiling and waving bye-bye, and she was a very good-looking girl, you know, and she's turning towards me, and I figured, hey, I want to take a picture. And I used the crowd in front of me as a camouflage, you know. So that's what I learned works, you know. Like you walk behind somebody, and maybe like, I don't know, 2-3 meters, like not too far but not too close, so that when you take a picture, not too many of these guys in front of you. Like you don't want to have the same people always in your shots, right? But basically I look over, you know, I'm tall, right? I'm almost 6 feet tall, so I can, when I'm trailing behind somebody, you know, you choose somebody who's not very tall, and I can look over their heads and see who's coming, you know, on the sidewalk. So we're all walking, right? And I'm looking and I see, let's say, somebody like pretty, or some, you know, nice, interesting face, or some, you know, cute girls are coming, you know, and I want to take their picture. And so I slow down a little bit to create a distance between myself and these people. And they effectively act as a barrier. And I have the camera, and the camera is pointed at 45-degree angle, you know, like sideways, right? And what happens is that person comes towards us, and he does not see my camera because I'm hidden behind these people, right? And everything happens so quickly, right? So when they're in the clear, so I can feel it. I'm not even looking at them, you know. That's another thing. I'm looking straight forward, because I know where they are. I can see them with my peripheral vision, right? And as soon as they're, you know, close to me, I turn the camera slightly and I take their picture. And I think once I heard somebody say, hey, he just took our picture. And I just turned the head a little bit like this, and I look in the back, but no, nobody chased me. Nobody asked me to delete anything, you know, but it felt cool. I think this is the best shots you can take this way, because you can actually target specific people, you know. Where when I was sitting at the bench at the crosswalk, I don't see, like, you know, the screen is tiny, right? I cannot see who am I shooting. I see some people, I know the camera is focusing, but it's just basically blind shooting, you know. And then on the computer, I haven't looked yet because I just came in here, right? Came back home. And one more thing I wanted to say is that, yeah, so I worked with servo, you know, constant autofocus, and I used multiple, you know, like my camera was doing what, like 5-6 shots per second, and I disabled all sounds. But the shutter, of course, I tried the silent one. On my camera, on this Rebel, it only single shot can be silent, so I just went back to slow continuous, right? And so the focusing was continuous focusing. And this camera, this Rebel, only has 9 points, you know. So what I did is I just left everything on automatic, like the automatic focusing point selection, and you know, I was just pointing at whoever I wanted to shoot. And at first I tried shutter priority, and then I switched to manual. I think I was shooting at like 2/50th of a second or 3/20th or 400th of a second, just, you know, because people were moving. And just chose a shutter speed, I don't know, f4, f5, 5.6. But what eventually I ended up doing, I tried the evaluative metering, you know, like pattern, but I had better results with spot metering, you know. Spot metering created some like interesting, you know, effects, because specific person was, you know, brightly lit, everything was cool, and the rest was kind of like, you know, not lit, or, you know, maybe too bright, but I didn't care. I just wanted to put the focus on one person, and I think it works very well as long as you aim your camera properly. Because I think once I I aimed, you know, I was aiming at a person walking towards me, but I missed. And so, of course, and the camera measured the exposure from something that was like, I forgot, there was like a fence or bright building, either dark fence or bright building, and then the person was totally, you cannot see them, you know. But when I hit the person straight in the face, you know, like when my aim was good, I think that method, shooting sideways when you're hiding behind somebody walking in front of you, that's what worked for me. I love this. Oh, and one more thing I was doing, of course, is when you're holding the camera vertical sideways, you know, let's say I'm stopping at the light and we're all getting ready to cross, and there's some interesting character standing next to me, and her face is turned towards me, because of course you don't want to shoot people that turned away from you, right? You want to see the face. And somebody standing next to me, or even if I'm walking past them, you know, I'm just holding the camera at my side, you know, vertical, and it's very easy to push the button, you know, like boom, boom, boom. But of course the picture gets, you know, vertical, but I did a couple of times and I think the results were good. And so here's the here's the photos. I hope you guys like them, because yeah, I wanted to put them before, but actually I'm gonna put them after this message. Thanks for watching.